W Rising, the podcast for women by women, in which we're exploring the personal and spiritual journey to creating a wow life. I'm Lorianne Rising. I'm an international award-winning author, intuitive mentor for women, and of course, your host. And today is Mentorship Monday, which means we are honoring the courage and commitment of women who are currently walking through the wilderness and are reaching out for help and support. And today, I have with me a woman who identifies as a wife and a mother. She worked full-time until recently and has a graduate degree in social science. So welcome, Jane. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
And I just want to preface the conversation we're about to have with a reminder. I know you and I talked about it, before we got started, but also for listeners, that I don't see myself as an expert. I really believe that you are, especially in your own life. And I absolutely believe that there is a wise one within each of us who is wanting to reconnect with you, to help you and guide you forward. And so I see my role here more as helping facilitate that reconnection. So does that work for you? Does that make
That's
sense?
perfect. Oh, yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Wonderful. So let's take just a moment to breathe and center and just be present here for a moment.
Okay.
Because what I know is that sometimes there's nerves, there's life, and we can just let that go and allow whatever is right and perfect and the highest and best of this time to come forward and unfold and be here now. Lovely. So, Jane, I'm curious, in your own words, tell me a little bit about what's happening for you that brought you here today.
Okay. So when I first saw what kind of work you do, I thought it was a perfect match for where I am right now, because I do believe strongly in the wisdom of women inside ourselves. There's actually a book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, that it made me think about when you were talking. But yeah, I'm in a kind of a place where I'm trying to reinvent myself. And this seemed like a good step towards that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I love that book, by the way. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
love that book. I need to
It's a
reread it
good
again.
one.
It
Oh,
is
yeah.
very good. So thank you.
It's a classic.
So tell me a little bit about what has been. So what is it? I guess the question is really, why are you wanting to reinvent yourself? What's going on that's not really the fit anymore?
Well, let's see. I started off my whole career journey listening to what other people thought I should do in life. And when I had my little voice of what I should do, I let it be shut down. And so I kind of got into some career paths that were kind of interesting, but not the greatest fit. And your resume starts looking a certain way after a while, and it's hard to transition. And I didn't feel like I was really serving my purpose. And so that's why I'm looking for a shift. I want to be able to live a life that will make me feel like I made an impact. And I'm I'm in my 40s. I'm in my early 40s now. And this is kind of like the time to do it because, there's, people can work into their 80s, 90s, whatever. But this is really when people are wanting to get in there and kind of stay for the long run, if possible. At least that's how I feel. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can definitely, first of all, say you are not alone. I think you just
Okay.
told my story for me. So,
Oh, wow.
really appreciate you sharing that very much. And I know many, many women out there listening are just nodding their heads and going, yep, I hear you. I get it. So,
Mm.
thank you for showing up here today and sharing that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I'm curious, I mean, knowing that we can't solve everything today in one
Mm-hmm.
45-minute conversation or whatever it winds up being,
Mm-hmm.
um, what what would you want to get out of this conversation today?
Hmm. Maybe just some encouragement and um, some maybe some steps that I can take towards figuring out what I should do or how to do what I already know I want to do but don't want to say I want to do. So, yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's a
yeah.
beautiful setup.
Yeah, no issues. Just go ahead and solve it all.
Yes, we'll solve the world's problems in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess, I'll make it a little simpler. um, so, I halfway have an idea in my head that I might want to go into a PhD program.
Mhm.
And I also have this other idea that no, I don't want to waste my time with that. I want to get into writing and podcasting and maybe even become an interviewer who is known even nationally, internationally, whatever. Because I think that is something that I could thrive in. And yeah, but I'm trying to figure out which way to go with that. I know there's a lot more I need to learn, but at the same time, I don't want to get stuck in school forever.
Mm.
So, yeah, because
Mhm.
I've already got stuck in school for quite a while. I have too many degrees.
School, it can in itself be its own addiction, I've discovered. So,
Yes, absolutely. It's like, well, I think this will help me get closer. And then you get into that and you don't focus on what led you there in the first place because it takes so much time to get through
mhm,
school. So, yeah,
mhm.
anyway, agreed.
Wonderful. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So we can definitely move in the direction of some first steps and maybe even some
Okay.
clarity for you around what feels best. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
wonderful. So you said an interesting phrase in there when you were describing what you wanted, which there's a level of awareness that I heard that I really honor and appreciate. And it's interesting because awareness can often be a double-edged sword, right? Like we
Mm.
know something, but now we have to be aware of what we're trying to avoid so we don't inadvertently have to become too aware and take action, right?
Uh-oh. Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I
Uh-huh.
I kind
Yeah.
of heard some of that going on for you. That I mean, you said
Mhm.
you're aware that you're avoiding not telling yourself something.
Mhm.
So I have a feeling you know what I'm gonna ask.
Mhm.
What might it be that you're not admitting to yourself?
Um, I kind of want to go back to school and get a PhD, um, or at least go through some kind of program that will help me get the knowledge base that I need in order to advance further. So, yeah.
So, what do you feel like is the knowledge base that you need?
Well, honestly, I am really interested in history and how things happen in the past, and paying attention to signs and seeing where things are headed now based on knowing what happened in the past. And I'm also a person of color, and so I really believe in us knowing our history and the history of the world, and not believing what somebody else has told us, because we should all there's multiple versions of a story, right?
Mm.
So yeah, I guess I never, and so I never really got into history and learning that very well. And I feel like in order to move to the next step, I need to do some kind of deep exploration into the foundations, like of
Mm-hmm.
this country, other countries, and just get an understanding of those things. I have a family member who went into advanced studies in history class when I was growing up. My grandfather used to always want to make sure that we knew what was going on in the world, and so those are things that are kind of deep rooted in me, even though they don't seem to be things that make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of want to be in some position where I can share insights on what is happening today based on what was happening in the past.
Mm.
And I feel like the only way that I can do that in a truthful way is to like actually go back and immerse myself into source text, meaning things that happened that were recorded at the same time they happened, and like that, initial data, and just kind of get an understanding of things, because you have a lot of people here in this world who, and I don't want to get all political, but you have a lot of people who throw out a lot of facts that aren't really facts, and they're not really based on too much. And I kind of want to be that voice of reason in a way, um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just to help things along, because I feel like this country in particular, and United States and in the world, we're at a point right now where we can go a couple of different ways,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a whole lot, and I almost don't know if I'm putting myself on too high of a pedestal as far as what I can accomplish.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a saying about, who is it? It was, I think, Marianne Williamson um, said once that we're scared of the things that we can do,
Mm-hmm.
like just the paraphrase. So yeah, I just don't
Mm.
know if I'm reaching too big. So
Ooh.
yeah,
I think you just
that's a
echoed.
jumbled mess.
No, it's beautiful and perfect. And I think you just echoed one of the key factors that often holds so many of us back. And I just
Mm,
want to say that there is no too big.
mm.
It doesn't exist.
Mm.
And
There is no too big.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So I can't think of something that's too big for me to accomplish, because what, like,
Correct.
if it is too big, then it'll just peter out anyway, or like I can only think of things that are meant for me, or how do you mean that, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot?
No, absolutely. I appreciate you asking. So what I believe, and I'll say it is my belief,
Mm-hmm.
doing the work that I've done and reading all the things that I've done, it's what I've come to. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely something, if you choose to take it on, wonderful. If you choose not to, wonderful. You're welcome to modify it as well and make it your own. So I'll just simply share my belief is that if you are given an idea or an idea comes to you, It is from that wise one within, from that, some people might call it the soul or the higher self as well, that piece of us that knows more of us than we do. And if it is an idea that feels too big, it's because we're being called forward to be and become more than we have yet. It does not mean that we can't get there. It means that we have an opportunity to expand and see what's possible. And we're never given an idea that is too big for us, ever. And what's really beautiful, I know I'm somebody that will sometimes have a hard time completing something because it's like, well, but I get so involved in loving the journey of it that I'm afraid of like not having something to work on. Uh, but what I've discovered is that when we do go on that journey, we astound ourselves at what we are capable of. And sometimes things wind up shifting along the way, but we needed that initial vision to get moving in a direction. And sometimes that initial vision does really come to fruition. And what happens next is that we get a new one that draws us even more forward and expands us in new directions. So, as human beings, we are always expanding. And if we're not, it starts feeling like we're dying.
Yeah.
So, those visions you have, those ideas you have, there is no too big.
That is something I'm going to have to think about some more after this call. Because that, and I like your idea that sometimes you go for something, if I understand you correctly, you go for one thing and along the way you get into something else that may even suit you better, but that doesn't mean that the first thing that you went into was wrong, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't have gone there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, I see life as sort of, driving a car. The GPS will sit there and be silent until you're in motion. Have you ever noticed that? You get zero instructions. When you first put in, like, here's what I want to do, you'll get the first step. But then it sits there and waits for you to take action. You don't get all of it all at once. And
Yeah,
sometimes
that's
you
true.
decide, hey, I need to make this little stop along the way. And so it'll adjust course, right, for you. But a lot of times I feel like that's how our intuition works as well. We have to get in motion. We can steer along the way. We can take detours all we want to. We can even change the destination if we want to anytime. But we won't get instructions until we're in motion.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're just sitting around not doing anything. And yeah, you have to have some kind of input, yeah, or in some kind of action. Okay.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So I want to go back and revisit some of the rest of what you were talking about in terms of what you were looking for in, the possible path of education and the history that is important to you. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, you mentioned that, there are multiple sides and getting to source documents is vital and important for you. Do you feel like a PhD is the only way to go about that?
No, definitely not. And that's where I don't want to fall into a trap and just go straight for that, because it's a lot of money, a lot of time. It's an agenda that some of it will not actually fit what I want to do. Like some of the things I will have to do to get my PhD are going to be classes that aren't going to really help me, honestly. I know because I got my master's and not everything was super helpful. So, but then there are going to be some things that I don't think are helpful to me that actually are helpful, that I don't envision on being helpful for me that do turn out to be useful,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't want to go get stuck in going for a PhD just because it seems like the most tidy package, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the most, and also it's a way to get prestige, especially in my family and in the world. If you
Yeah.
have an MD, like you're tops, but if you have a PhD, like people have to give you respect.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as a woman, because I know this is kind of women centered, what we're doing right now. It can be difficult to earn um, respect. I mean, and that's the thing, we have to earn it.
Yeah.
So we're not just given it as just when you meet a person. If she's a woman, it's
Mm.
not like she's automatically given respect. And so that PhD makes you a little bit more likely to
Yeah.
get that respect. But yeah, so I don't want to get caught in a trap of thinking that's the only way
Yeah.
is to earn a PhD. Yeah, I might be able to accomplish my goals through something more self-guided.
Cool. Well, and I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge you mentioned that being a person of color is an aspect as well. And so, yes, that's absolutely true for
Mhm.
women. And I think it's amplified for people of color as well, that level of respect in many, well, probably most arenas. And it's not a
Mhm.
personal experience I have, but I do want
Mhm.
to acknowledge that I'm aware that it exists.
Thank you, and I'm glad that you know that because it's something that it's hard for me to vocalize that. I get worried that it would come across a certain way, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
very glad that you already know that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you're open to new ideas and possibilities. And I'm really curious if you think there might be a way that you could blend the podcasting path and the education path for yourself somehow.
Mhm. I think there is. I think there is. Um, yeah. Well, you know, one way is that I could look at syllabuses or syllabi
Mhm.
of different courses and kind of do book reports, so to speak, on them. Or I could reach out to experts in the field, which would be really awesome. But I don't know that they would reach back to me, like reach out to people that might be able to give me insight. Um, Politicians, writers, things like, that who could give me information. That would be awesome. But I know that the ones that I would know about would be too busy for me because I'm a nobody in regards to like,
Mm.
well, yeah, as far as they know, I'm a nobody. So I guess if I had you know, people who were at a level closer to me who are also looking for the same things, who are looking to, who have time to kind of talk to somebody like me and kind of teach me. And they have a reason for it too, if they have an agenda as well, like matching up each other's agendas. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to reach out to somebody who's like, a front runner for a political party or something. They don't have time for that. I'm not going to reach out to Oprah Winfrey and be like, "Hey, Oprah, come on my podcast." She's not going to do that.
Well, it's
But
interesting that you mention that because on one hand, I hear where you're coming from. There is some growth to get to certain places, but
yeah.
I'm also hearing the possibility of an underlying belief that might in some way be holding you back.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
does that feel right to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think of it as trying to be realistic. But yeah,
Mm.
the idea that, oh, they're not going to respond to me because yeah, it's scary to reach out to people and not hear back from them. In fact,
Mm.
I did reach out to somebody. A famous genealogist I reached out to, and I'd never heard back. And I was like, oh, well, I understand. So, I don't want to be spinning my wheels, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
one of the things you said, you used the words that that you're nobody. And I
Mm.
want to challenge that a little bit.
Mhm.
If you had to articulate the belief underneath that, what might be the words that you use?
Okay, well, I mean, when I said it, I knew like, ooh, that's not the right word. That sounds
Mm.
bad. But then I was like, that's all I can think of right now that would fit. What I mean is that, okay, so I think on things kind of deeply. So hopefully it's not doesn't sound weird. But I think of the fact that I don't have much money. I don't have much fame. When I die, there are very few people who will be aware that I even existed, most likely. And so to the world, I am nobody. But to my family, I'm somebody. To my friends, I'm somebody. But to the world, to outsiders, I am nobody. And I have seen that very clearly. I've even seen it in medical situations. I'm nobody.
Mm.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can I shift the wording of that just a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
What if it's not that you're nobody, but that those other people could not see the value of you because of something within them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. There are a lot of people who only see people as having value if they come in a certain package,
Mm.
have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of initials behind their name, or have a nice Instagram account. I don't know. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
just want to make sure that if nothing else, you know you are somebody, and not just with your family.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like being an acorn seed. Everything is already there. You're not yet the giant tree that you have the potential to be, but that does not in any way change the value or the worthiness or the beingness that you are as the seed. It's just a matter of growth in between.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So I'm curious, given, I mean, we've covered all kinds of things in this conversation so far, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just so grateful for how you're showing up and how you're being here today. And I know you mentioned that you're wanting to focus on maybe getting some clarity and maybe even a couple of first steps. And so I want to kind of
Mm-hmm.
circle back a little bit around that.
Okay.
So what in thinking about where you want to be in say 3 to 5 years,
Mm.
what comes to mind?
Um, I want to have a book written, or some sort of media that people can pick up or view, that, you know, almost gives a record of, like, that I was here, or, or that passes, that helps in some way, in our world, like that, even if not in a big way, but at least help spark some thought or whatever. So yeah, I want to have a finished product of some sort, and I want to be working um, in an arena that allows me to be creative, and that I really don't want to have to go to somebody's office and work there. You know? So I
Mhm.
would say I want to work for myself in some capacity, or as close to it as I can get. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
hmm And make my own hours. That would be success for me,
Beautiful. Beautiful. So I want to take just a moment, and if you're willing to, if you want to close your eyes or just focus, but look within and really visualize being that person, being as if it's now, the person who has a book, has a product, has a following, creates her own hours, has created a life she absolutely loves, and feel that as if it's now. Where in your body do you feel it the most?
Hmm. 1 second. I want to say my throat, but I had a mint in my mouth. So let me take a moment more.
That's fair.
You're like, this woman is crazy. Okay.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's like maybe in my crown, maybe in the top of my head.
Mm. And what does it feel like?
Um, like a little tingly.
Mm-hmm. Are there any pictures or sounds or any other way that it lets itself be known?
I mean, I see myself dressed in a nice little a nice little skirt suit kind of thing,
Nice.
some bright colors, and my baby's there. Well, she's not a baby anymore. I'm like going between different things, and it's bright, no
Mm.
smells or anything like that. Um, it's probably because of this damn mint. And sorry.
It's okay. It's the truth. I love
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Usually it would be cool if there were smells, like, but yeah. So that's what it is. It kind of just feels a peacefulness and a sense of like that I can have freedom, So
Beautiful.
yeah.
So, as that woman looking back to who you are today,
hmm
what advice does she have to share?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I guess trust yourself, and you're really not so different from who I am now. It's just different circumstances.
Mm.
That came at me very poignantly, like that felt very intense. That idea that
Mm.
it's not that you're so different, like finally you have value, or you're so great, or you made it. It's like you're the same person, it's just a different circumstance that you might kind of like a little bit more.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, what were some of the first steps that she took to adjust the circumstances?
Um, being more disciplined, and like taking charge of the day kind of thing, because I have to be more like go for what I want and not be like slow about going for it, if that makes sense, because I can get into that taking it, like if I don't have somebody keeping me on task, I need to keep myself on task in a way that's, a loving way, but that doesn't let me just get away with just, squandering my potential, because you can squander
Yeah.
whole days very easily.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the main lessons that she has, is that you don't just kind of like get there slowly and just you have to actually have an intention and a purpose and
Mhm.
use your hours towards that. So,
Mhm.
yeah. There's so much soul searching you can do, but then at the end of the day, you have to do something and put it into action.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I think that's the main gap there, is that putting it into action.
Mm.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, what might be some of the first steps you could take for yourself now?
Hmm. Um, well, create an environment where I have some structure and structures and hours and, like if it were non-pandemic times, for instance, I would probably, go to a coffee shop and do my research. I'm big on researching things and, figure out who I need to connect to, what I need to connect to, do a pathfinder exercise. Um, a pathfinder exercise is where you decide where you are and where you want to be and what you need to do in between.
Mm. Nice.
And I can't, I remember that from grad school. That path did not end up being my path, but the whole exercise of doing it is good. And so, yeah, like give myself some structure of, I even thought about taking a one of those co-working spaces where you have
Mhm.
to pay to, have a space outside of your home
Right.
and like, yeah, and have some hours, give
Mhm.
myself the structure that I would have if I were in an office environment.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing that might stop you from doing that? Just one.
Money.
Mm.
Money. Yeah, I'm trying to be very frugal right now because my spouse is the only one working right now.
Mhm.
So money, if I had the money that I needed, I would go ahead and get myself a little co-working space and go to work there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, what might you do instead?
Hmm. Um, I could set up stuff outside. I live in a place where it's not super cold and it doesn't really get too cold during the winter. Um, I could figure out a family member who I could, who I trusted, was not gonna, because of these times, be sick and hang out over there, just to get myself a break from my regular day and my office day.
Mhm.
Um, I could set up a special room in the house and have that be my work room. Yeah.
Mhm. Wonderful. So, which idea feels like the one you're most like there's the most energy around, there's the most attraction to?
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
Okay.
Maybe, maybe like going even to a park.
Mm.
Yeah, because that's outdoors. I can have my little jacket and my, hot cocoa or my chocolate or my coffee and my laptop and yeah, do a little bit of research and yeah, that might be okay. At least for part of the day. And then if I want to go somewhere else the rest of the day I can do that too. But I think I need to get out of the house and get dressed and not, wear like,
Yes.
bummy clothes, like pajamas half the day and then change.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I have days when I'm not with my baby where I can actually do
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Neat.
yeah. Hmm.
And the beautiful thing is when you're sculpting your own life, you can try on different things, and maybe one day it is go to the park and a different day it's do something else. And so you're not stuck with one,
Right.
which is beautiful. So that is something that may evolve a little bit as you go also.
Hmm.
So, and that's totally fine. Just yeah.
Yeah.
So, when might you start taking those one or two first steps?
Um, well, I mean, I can actually start that today. It's not like there's a huge barrier. Today's one of my free days, so I can do it today.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How lovely is that?
Yeah, it works out well. I mean, yeah.
Oh,
I appreciate you getting me to think about it because I don't think I would have come up with that
mm,
otherwise. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful place to start. I know, like I said, your journey reflects so many women's journeys, including my own. And so I really honor and appreciate and value how much you've shared and how present you've been and honest you have been. And I really, really appreciate that so much. Um, I'm curious. I just have one more question for you, if you're open to that, and that
Yeah,
is,
of course.
um, what now I lose my way of asking questions. How perfect is that?
Oh, you have as much time as you want. It's okay.
It's all good. So I'm just really curious. What do you feel like you've received out of our conversation today?
Hmm. A little bit of comfort and less anxiety that I am still on the right path and it's not time to throw in the towel and get myself an office job, honestly, because I have been considering it and like I can still get one if I need to. And also, like, I really appreciated the exercise of looking at myself in the future and seeing what that person who is in the space that she wants to be in and in the place she wants to be in, like what she would have to say to me, because I think it really did let me tap into my deeper self.
Mm,
So, yeah, and that really taught me that it wasn't like a worth thing. It wasn't about like me not being worthy or something wrong with me. It's just that there's a little couple of extra things I need to do in between to get to where I want to be. So, yeah,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
those are the things that
Beautiful.
I think I've gotten. And I really appreciate your empathy. Like I really do because I did feel like you were present with me as well. So, thank you.
Absolutely. I just, like I said, I feel honored that you are so willing to show up. We haven't met before this. So you showed up with a complete stranger and opened yourself up. That takes so much courage and vulnerability And
Mm.
I just so value and appreciate that. And what I know just in this short conversation is how much you really do have to offer the world in your voice and your wisdom and your education and the research you're doing and the insights you're going to be finding along the way. And so I'm really looking forward to, if there's a way I can watch the journey and support the journey, I would really love to. So thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. Um, it's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. That means so much to me. And vice versa. I'm going to be checking you out and seeing where you
Well,
go in
thank you.
addition to where you already are.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Nothing like being in the spotlight for an introvert. That's it'll be wonderful.
I know, right?
Well, thank you,
See,
Jane.
but we fool people sometimes. Sometimes we don't look like introverts.
Yes, exactly. And we kind of have
Thank you
to,
so
don't we?
much.
Like we just kind of have to. It's sort
Yeah,
of the world is in many ways designed for extroverts, not introverts, but
that's true.
it's
Very
a
true.
lovely opportunity to expand and stretch. That's all I can. That's how I perceive it anyway. So
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. With people who are, safe places and who are worthy of, that vulnerability.
Yes,
So, yeah, absolutely.
definitely. Well, thank you again. And for those who are listening, if you or a woman you know is feeling lost in the wilderness of her life, I hope you'll share this show and visit my website at www.loriannrising.com. That's LORIANNERISING. There are resources and support available there to help you reconnect with your wise one within. And until next time, my friends, keep rising.